Okay. Wow. Hello, everybody. Oops, you're disturbing me from reading a book, but it's fine. I can't say no to academy sessions, right? Before we jump right into the sessions, I would like to give you a very warm welcome to all of you from Singapore to Indonesia to Malaysia, Philippines, Vietnam, Thailand, and Australia to wherever you are. I hope you are doing well and happy. As a learning forum and part of Aleph Cultures, academic team has prepared a line of events that will excite you in your learning journey and activity. I think, come to think of it, it's been a while since we last had the academy sessions. And fast forward, I can't imagine we have survived 2020 with all these COVID situations. And we are now at the end of January with the new spirit of learning and entering the month of February, which all of you know is the month of love. And that is why we have invited our Master of Love, our own Alephians, the Design Director and Chief of Opportunities, Mr. Poon Wen Ang, who will be sharing with us about love. So without further ado, I will pass the stage to Mr. Poon.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the Academy team for having me. Hi, everybody. My name is Poon. For those of you who don't know me, you'll get to. I think the next 20 minutes will be full of heart. We will touch a little bit about strategy. We'll talk about 2021. We'll talk a little bit about transformation. We'll talk about design. And just a quick note on this session. It is purely my point of view. It is all unvalidated. So I'm going to kick it off by setting a statement over here. What is design? Design is my life. Design is my work. And design as a noun is something abstract or concrete that adds value beautifully. So that's my point of view on design as a noun. Taking it forward, design can also be a verb. And for me, design is a sequence of decisions that create solutions, as simple as that. And for me, my design story started when I was in college. It was 2004 when I started the Foundations of Design. If you cannot recognize me, I'm the one in the middle. And it was a very exciting time in my life. I started to learn about creative concepts. I started to learn about the history of arts, and then also practicing the design fundamentals of line shape, as well as drawing. So I was a very curious bloke at that time. And I have to say that throughout what I have done, I have always enjoyed being playful. So that's my motto. I love design. I love to be playful while practicing design. And just some of my early day works, it looked like that. So it was always quirky, it was always playful, it was always a little bit cheeky. And if you must know, I majored in 3D. I'm not great at it. Here's a glimpse of what I had done previously. This was during the birth of American Idol, my early day works. And that was when I started to define it to be something beautiful. I fell in love with beauty. I fell in love with design, creating beautiful things. And just to share, I used to have to do this as a job where I picked up some visuals and I had to make something out of it, build a story into those visuals. So again, some of my early day work. So design was always something beautiful, was something curious, and it was always playful for me. And as I matured in my career, I started to realize that design was a job. It needed you to deliver. It needed you to put something into the market that can be consumed by other people. And that's again, that's me as I was pursuing my design career. Then I realized that design was not only about beauty, but also about solving problems. So the face of design had evolved into something that takes away problems.
Hello, everyone. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Just as filler, I think this is the first time we do this format where we use another platform to kind of stream, all these format to all of you to create a better experience. But unfortunately, we have some technical difficulties. I think we are back now with a better, screen presentations that you can see. Hopefully, it's clear on your side. I think the team is still fixing that. We'll just wait for a little while. Poon, maybe I can take this time to kind of, have a little bit of chat with you while the team is fixing that technical difficulties. So what makes you choose this topic?
So I think uh,
Hmm.
I think I'm trying to multitask at the moment. So
No worries, take your time.
what made me choose this topic? First
Yeah.
things first. I needed a way to approach 2021, right?
Hmm.
Being like the rest of you, I needed this to be the best year ever in my life. And I was sitting down and I was thinking how I could achieve that. And so I explored some of my thinking, and I found that one answer that I feel could make a difference,
Hmm.
and the answer was love.
Do
And
you do
hence
this kind of
I
a
started to.
do you do this kind of a reflection every year when the year ends? Actually, you have a reflection of what you're expecting next year and all that. And it happens that this year the topic is about love.
Yes. So I do that exploration. It happens every beginning of the year. It happens every quarter, and 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 it's a good time to just find out your annual strategy. I'm back online. Let's kick it off. So my design journey took me down the path of saying that it has moved from something beautiful, it's moved from a job, and now my perception is that design is there to solve a problem, right? Design is in existence to solve problems. It can be problems. I think you can design, and which brings me down to my next idea is that you can apply the thought of design to anything and everything. In Aleph, we create apps, we create websites, we solve problems, we communicate ideas, we talk about designing strategies and transformational programs, and you can design anything. And even more so, at the end of it, I feel that a design is not design if it has no point of view. It has no soul, it has no opinion. And by having no point of view, it is no longer design for me, which means it is just generic. Design is not supposed to be generic. Design is not supposed to be a photocopy. Design is not supposed to be an imitation. So that was my approach coming into 2021. And then came 2021. And just like all of you watching, I wanted something better. I wanted something more meaningful than the last year. I needed it to be a hit. So I started gathering my thoughts, and I have come up with this hypothesis that if I love the people around me, if I love my craft, and I am able to love the bigger picture of what we're trying to achieve, I'm going to have a smashing year. So that's where my thought started. So I moved into this phase, which I call Act One, and Act One is all about defining love. And obviously, when we start an exploration, we got to start with research, right? So I started this research where I started to look at the various kinds of love available. Just a quick snapshot, right? There is the philia, which is the affectionate love, pragma, enduring love. There's the familial love. There is romantic love. There is love for objects. There's obsessive love. There's even what they call this self-love, which I think is relatively important. And there's also this thing called selfless love. But if you remember being in love, right? It was such a crazy feeling. And when you're in love, you come running and you're gonna fall and you get up and you're gonna fall and you get up. Obviously, this research that I took brought me into Netflix, and hence why you're seeing this now. So this is a scene from her, and this guy over here, Joaquin Phoenix, he fell in love, and when you're in love, just come running. You get the jitters when you see that name that you love, that message that comes into your phone. When you see that, you get jitters, and that's a fact. That's proof. You get butterflies in your stomach. You probably cannot eat. You probably cannot sleep as well, and you feel good. And when I was looking deeper into it, right, the effects of love, it gives you a sense of euphoria, you feel safe, you feel attached, and you're sort of willing to sacrifice and do anything for that thing that you love, right? So it's a very boosted passion. You get constant thoughts about it, you sleep on it, you breathe on it, and scientifically they say if you practice this, you live longer. So why not, right? Life is just amazing with this. So I thought, okay, this sort of validated my hypothesis that if I'm able to do this on a constant basis and at scale, life is just going to be freaking amazing. So this is also, I mean, my Netflix research where the protagonist lives a beautiful life while he is in love with an AI, right? And that AI is played by Scarlett Johansson. It's a beautiful film. But at some point, that the conflict needs to happen, and this is where I'm going to introduce this thing called human as well. That's naturally selfish, right? And you will do things for yourself before you do things for others. You are naturally selfish as a human being, whether you like it or not. Like you could give money to someone thinking you're doing a good deed, but actually you're doing it for yourself. You're giving that money so that you can feel good from doing a good deed. So we are all naturally selfish, which brought me into my next form of research, which is interviews, obviously. But I chose to interview myself. That's not a valid study, but I chose to do that. And what I analyzed through various forms of research, and this is through the 5 love languages, is that people react differently to the different forms of affection or love. And apparently I react best towards of affection. There are people who react towards gifts, towards touch, towards quality time, towards acts of service. But personally, I react best towards of affirmation, which again validates something new. Everyone is wired differently. There is no one secret recipe. So I get confused once again. And I continued my research, and I looked around me as to the things that I love best. This is my dog, right? And this is a different kind of love that I have experienced, that you see your dog more than anyone else. You were there from their very beginning. You taught them the life lessons. And actually there is scientific proof that when a dog passes, you grieve more than a human being. So it goes deep, right? And this is relatively important. And for me, this is really true because at 2 a.m. when I'm preparing this, no one else is there except my dog. And I got to learn from this, right? My lesson, my key takeaway out of this is they're always there. And so what if I'm always there for someone else? Isn't that going to be rewarding for me as well? So I started thinking like that. And you learn unconditional love through this, right? It's not a romantic love, but it's a bit more unconditional, which also drives you to do crazy things, right? And I was so obsessed that I had also designed a website before, right? Do all my crazy design stuff, try to make something beautiful, playful, for the thing I love, right? And it's silly, but it's gratifying. You feel good. So humans are selfish and dogs are not selfish. But I also think that when you love, you sort of feel crap when the thing you love is not having a good time, right? If the thing that you love is not good, you're naturally not good as well. And that was another observation that I received. I also observed that if you're willing to spend money on something and not mind it, most probably you love that something, right? I could put a metric to love. The amount of money you spend on something and not feel bad about spending that money. I put a metric to love. And that goes for time as well. Let's take for example, if I disliked person A, and if I had to spend 50 cents on person A, I would be cursing in my pants. But if I like person A and I spend 50 bucks on person A, it's nothing. It makes me happy. So that's where my thinking went. And this goes back to everyone liking a different thing. Right? We are all humans. We are all selfish beings. We think differently. So what now? I move into my next phase to explore it a little further, uh, and look at what is love once again, outside of myself, outside of that. And I came across this longitudinal study. This research was done for a duration of 75 years. I believe it's still ongoing. And it says that it's not about fame or money, it's about relationships that make you feel fulfilled when your heart's full. I also came across another study that claims that you can fall in love anytime. And how do you do it? You go through a series of 32 questions that talk about the choice, that talk about two people having a conversation. So what does this tell me? It tells me that you can design for love. And the questions are all about the individual. So for example, would you like to be famous? In what way and why? Right? So it enables, this script enables two people to have a conversation and at the end of the conversation fall in love. It's 32 questions. I have not experimented with it. We can experiment with it, William, if you are game. But at the end of these 32 questions, what it would have done, I would assume, is to allow you to expose yourself, be vulnerable, and get to know the other person a little bit better. So then I start to define love as a relationship, as opening up to achieve that relationship through experimentation. There is also this thing called love of objects, where this lady, her name is Erica, she married the Eiffel Tower, but at the same time, she also developed a relationship with her bow. Her bow. So she was an archer, right? Competitive archer. And because of her relationship with that bow, she became, well, sort of a champion, right? She receives success in archery through that relationship with her bow. So that blew my mind. You can love an object, and that can excel your performance with that object. That blew my mind. So I think love can be a hack and an enabler. If you can design love through 32 questions, you can design your love towards an object. It can become an enabler for you. So that's really interesting for me at this point. And I'm asking myself, right, why am I doing this? Because it's so much fun. What can I do to develop this? Is to love people, love the craft. Like for her, it was the goal. For me, I would love my craft. And if I love the bigger picture, I would achieve my goal. And how do I do this? I need to open up. I need to love the object of design. But how do I love the bigger picture? I think I needed to explore it a little bit more. So I took my research into the digital space at this point and looked at this new phenomenon called Genshin Impact. It's a global phenomenon. And why is it a phenomenon? Genshin Impact is a free-to-play, open-world action RPG, fully online, fully single-player, but you can multiplayer up to 4 people. And this is by a company called MiHoYo. And for me, it's crazy, and it has managed to make people fall in love through fun, right? It's also free. It's also a little bit kawaii. It's beautiful. It's open to all forms of access. It's in every platform. It's on mobile. It's on PS4. It's on Xbox. It's on PC. It's on every single thing. It's accessible. It is fresh. It is somewhat challenging, not to say easy, and it's constantly rewarding. So I see that this is a way to design love in the digital space as well. I'm thinking, how do I apply this to my next digital product, right? And I thought, okay, in order to achieve this, there needs to be something called digital transformation. In order for me to deliver a digital product like this, where I need to be digitally transformed. And then I started to look at digital transformation and see the companies that are successful, sort of like Myoyo, but also look at the real stats of companies that are trying to apply this. And I've learned that 84% of transformation fails. And then I looked at why the transformation fails. It's because it lacked the enabler of transformation, which is firstly a strong leadership with good behaviors, as well as the culture and the people to support that. Right. So I was thinking, how do we hack this to be better, to not operate under the fear of failure, not operate under the fear of innovation, not operate under the fear of taking risks. And the answer again was this recurring theme in my head. It was love, because when you love, you're not afraid to risk. When you love, you're not afraid to empathize. When you love, you don't blame. And this for me sort of validated that love is there, and that love can drive long-term success as a strategy and as a business strategy as well. I thought it was rather interesting. So I started to look at what's next, right? So this brings me towards the end of our conversation. What's next? I come up with my verdict. Again, this is entirely a point of view because it's so valuable. We need to do it. And in order to do it, I have to say that it doesn't come for free, right? Love is a decision. It does not come for free. You need to decide that you want it before it can ever happen to you. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to open my heart and love a few of those things that I had mentioned previously. Second one is that it is not easy. It is not easy. Remember, you have to go running. You have to invest time. You have to invest money, and that's the second thing that I feel that I'm gonna pledge to do, is that I'm gonna invest that additional effort. So firstly, love is a decision. Secondly, love is an effort, and thirdly, and this is true science as well, you have to tell yourself you're going to commit to this. And the scientific fact is that when you decide as a human being that you're going to commit to something, your testosterone levels drop, that ego drops, and you actually are vulnerable and susceptible to love. And that's going to give you a little bit more joy in your life, or euphoria in your life, a lot more risk taking in your life. So how now? From this, I'm going to apply all this thinking and put it back to myself as my point of view. Firstly, I need to be true to myself. I need to love myself. And in order to do that, I'm going to be extremely playful because that's me. I'm going to make sure that I am able to love people. And that comes from opening up, that comes from having conversations, that comes from the 32 questions that we talked about. I'm gonna continue to love what I had loved from day one, which is making beautiful things, right? Loving my craft, which is design, and making things that people will love as well. Something as powerful as Genshin Impact, I think is something worth doing. You know, when you do a good piece and you look at it, you naturally smile. You keep on wanting to look at it day after day. You open up that art that you've done, you look at it, you're happy. So I want to do that. And in order to do that, I think we need to also look at the bigger picture. Think about the end vision, the bigger picture and the end vision, that transformational piece, because if you don't do that, you'll never be able to do that. And I think the last one is really leading with love. I mean, not love doesn't mean painless, it's painful, but something that I believe is you have to lead with love. Otherwise, you're not leading at all. So that's where I'm at in my head, and I look around me, and these are the people. This is a symbol that we need to sort of love and care for the teams around you. You have to love your client as well, because if you don't love the client, you can never do good work for that client. If you don't love the project, you can never do good work for that project. And I want to continue making pieces that make me continuously smile every time I open it up. I don't want to fall into the trap where I look at something and it doesn't make me fall in love. I've been looking at this bouncing dollar sign for ages, and it doesn't get old for some reason. Right? And again, to the bigger picture of why we are doing all these dollar signs moving, it's always about the end game. What value we are solving for that person. Remember, it was problem solving. So, what value it is solving for the end consumer. And lastly, the people that I'm doing around with and the company I'm in love with. So that's my unvalidated point of view. My question to you guys is: are you in love?
Just kind of a scan through the comment sections from the YouTube. I know there are a lot of conversation happening in the very beginning when we have the technical difficult. I think love is a journey, right? So it's like something that you find out along the way, whether you like it or not, whether you hate it or not, and then along the way, you kind of find yourself, falling into something that you love. So I think technical difficulties is also part of a journey itself, where we kind of look into how we solve problems and kind of fall in love into the process itself. Let's look at what we have right now in terms of the questions. We have the very first questions. Casually, Aman asks about how many times have you fall in love, or do you fall in love? You can choose to answer that, or
How?
or you can take it personally.
No, I thought that Amanism is yeah many times, too many times, and
Too
also
many
fall
times.
out of love, right? I think
Mm,
if there is two things, right? One is love, which is long term, and it will change. It must change because us humans, we change as well. You can fall in, you can fall out. But I've fallen in love many times, and I
mm.
fall in love with, like I said, beautiful things, right? So imagine all those beautiful things that I have seen. I fall in love, right? The next one is a short game or long game. I think the short ones you just forget, and then I call that an infatuation. But I think love is longevity, and that requires effort. Sometimes you realize that okay, it's not worth it, not worth the effort. Stop.
If I can add on a little bit from my perspective as well, I think for myself, I've also fallen in love so many times. That includes, building a good experience for the users and knowing that, we serve value to the customers, right? That is the love that, I'm kind of, seeking also when it comes to, work relationship. Okay, let's move forward to us. We have us from Malaysia asking, can we actually design love or not? What is
We
your opinion
can.
about this?
My opinion is we can, right? We can design love for the various kinds of things. For real life work for people, the 32 questions is a good start, right? And
Mm,
the idea behind it is if you want to fall in love with someone, you got to open up. You got to open up, and you got to risk it a little bit. That's how a relationship starts. And so to answer you, for that 32 people, for the 32 questions, that actually helps you get in love with a human being.
mm,
Now, for an inanimate object, it needs to align with your values, I feel. Like for me, I love beautiful things, and hence it's easier to fall in love with beautiful things. Some people like fast things, they like thrill, so they fall in love with fast cars really easily,
mm.
or fast bikes really easily. some people are art lovers naturally, and so they spend their entire life collecting art, and they spend their entire fortune buying those art. So that is love for an object. And then at the end of the day, there's also this thing called love for a vision or for a value. And for me, that value is maybe design, or love for the law, love for honesty. I think that one is also being. It all starts from understanding and opening up first. So I think if I were to jam on this idea a little bit, you always need to try, you always need to open up, you always need to be vulnerable in order to develop this love.
That's a good one. Following up with that questions, right? I have also coming from us, just to tie that. He's asking, how do you reignite people falling out of love? How do you bring them back again? I think
How do
that's
you bring them back?
how do you reignite them, you know?
Okay, it goes back to the
Okay.
five senses. I'm going to flip back, right? Going back to the five senses, it can be. So this is from the five love languages. I did not create this. You can reignite it by complimenting. Some people like compliments. You can reignite by giving gifts, right? You can reignite by a physical touch. That don't do that in office. You can reignite by spending quality time, and you can reignite by doing them a deed of service. For example, if a husband and wife wash the dishes for her, so a deed of service. But everyone is different. Everyone reacts differently, and hence you got to know what ticks for that person first in order to execute this.
Sometimes small gesture like this will make a difference, right? It's not always like the big
It,
action that will do, yeah, that will
it makes
speak all
a
the loves, right?
yeah. I think it is effort. It is effort,
Mm,
and it's a decision. It's a decision to fall out as well.
mm. Like what you have shared, life is a decision itself. Love is a decision itself. I have questions still. I think a lot of questions. Let me kind of filter that off so that we have enough time to get you to answer one by one. Jasnit, we have Jasnit. How do you make sure the love does not comes across as fake to others? I think that is kind of a lot of people actually face these kind of problems. You know, when you're interacting with
Mm,
people, they are projecting love, but in reality, you know, there is some hidden agenda behind it. So how do you make sure that,
okay.
yeah.
I think I learned from the things around me, and the first thing that I have learned from Momo, my dog, right, is that if you are there every time, it's gonna be real, right? It's human to know whether things are real or not. And if I were to learn from Momo, uh, I have zero doubt in the world, and again, this is not human, right? But I have zero doubt in the world that she does not love me because she's there all the time, and she doesn't have to do any act of service for me. But the fact that she is there all the time, and that she empathizes with me, she knows when I'm good or not good or very good, but she's just there. I think just me, we know whether that person is being fake or not. Through opening up, I think the first step that we can do is to be really vulnerable first. And if you're vulnerable first, and that it continues to proceed, then you know it's real.
Hmm.
Again, point of
Um, Thanks for sharing about your opinions. We have quite a burning, long question over here coming from
view. Oh, I love it.
Wasim. I think we have been talking recently about the pattern of people being attracted to the same kind of persons. Is this a common concept? Can you maybe I paraphrase a little bit of the questions? Can you fall in love with other kind of persons even though you are committed already? I know some people does that, but what is your thought about this? Is it considered as you know included as part of the love concept or?
I think yes, and I have to say that as much as we love is not equal, I think if I equate love to time and effort, then love is absolutely finite, which means I have got 24 hours of love in me per day.
Mm-hmm.
And I can choose to use this effort to develop my craft, my love for craft, or can use this effort to develop my relationship at home. It's a choice, right? What you do with this, and just to answer you, I feel that it is finite and it's an investment that you do. It doesn't come for free.
Mm.
Uh, did that answer the question? Not really, but I don't know how else to answer this.
No worries about that. I think we still have time for two more questions. Maybe we can tie it back to like the previous questions as well. Gail from Malaysia actually asked, "How do you not fall out of love?" This is something related to work. How do you not fall out of love when a client actually breaks your heart? Right? Maybe you do something that is not the expectation of the client and all that, maybe, right? So how do you still maintain that love relationship, but in a professional setting with them? Maybe, for example.
Here, you challenge me, my friend. Okay, we're all humans, right? Ryan is human. I'm human. Let's just put it into an experimental concept. If I take 32 questions, it's two individuals as well. So assuming that the client is a human being, not a brand or an entity, right? Otherwise, I'll say that that's an object. So human being versus human being. It comes from talking it out, being very honest, maybe even fighting it out, because I don't think fighting is bad. Fighting it out, and then decide if it is really changed or not. Like, has it really fallen apart? You know,
Mm.
I go back to that one case study, and I believe that one case study because it's scientifically proven. If we have these 32 questions, I mean, very unlikely you're going to have those exact 32 questions with the client, but design a conversation around it that opens yourself up, transparent and honest, and allows them to open themselves up, transparent and honest, and
Mm.
then fight about it. I think maybe there could be a spark at the end of it.
I love your perspective about this. I think a lot of times all these, problems between human happens because there is a miscommunications and all that, right? So I think what we have to do is just be open in terms of communications about the problems that we have, the problems that they have. I think we can build on that connections to fall in love again.
Yeah, love as a
Mm.
strategy, right?
Yeah. The last one, which is very difficult in my opinion to answer, but I'm not sure about you. This is coming from Musli. Very simple questions, but depending on how you are going to answer it. Love is effort or love is sacrifice?
Okay, firstly, the first step is love is effort. And because you are in love, you go running, remember? And
Mm.
you go running so hard and you're willing to do anything for that idea that you love. So to answer you, mostly my thinking is love is effort. And once you are in love, you are willing to do any sacrifice. And even that time is not even a sacrifice anymore.
Mm. Okay. I think we are done with all the question and answer. Thank you everyone for putting your questions up in the YouTube comments. I think we have a few more questions. I think for those of you who really want to reach out to Poon to know about love and how he thinks about certain concepts of love that might fit into your context of problems, for example, you can feel free to reach out to Poon personally. Okay. Without further ado, then I would like to conclude the sessions by thank you everyone for joining these sessions. I guess my takeaway for this presentation is that sometimes love can be subjective. You might have your own perception about love. Some other people might have perception about love. But I think as long as you stay true to yourself, to love yourself before you are able to give up love to others, I think that works for me. So apologize again for the technical difficulties in the very beginning. We learned something out of it. I think part of the designer's responsibility and also team responsibility is to see how we can look into problems. Maybe you have to love the problem first before you're able to solve that problem itself. Okay, so I hope this is a fruitful, fun, learning and sharing sessions for all of you. I would like to thank you, Poon, for agreeing to do this, for sharing this wonderful time with us, and also the crew behind the scene, Janaka, Emily, Shasha, and Andy, who actually make these whole sessions happen for you. For anybody within Aleph organization or outside of the organizations, please look forward to the next academy, which is going to happen on the last Friday of the month. The topic for these January sessions, February and March, will be around digital transformations. So yeah, that's all about this month's academy sessions. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day. Stay safe and take care. Thank you.